Hey, how's it going, guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we are doing a fully built $450 gaming PC.
This isn't a Dell Optiplex upgrade. This is a custom gaming PC build for $400 in 2021. Is it amazing? Well, it might actually be pretty decent. Not exactly amazing, but before we dive into these PC parts, let's hear a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is brought to you by Lexar, your one-stop shop for all your storage needs. Today we are looking at the Hades RGB RAM kit featuring absolutely beautiful RGB, capacities up to 32 gigabytes, and super fast 3600 MHz speed that is rock solid stable, making it perfect for your next Intel or AMD gaming rig. But don't forget that Lexar has SSDs as well, like the NM620, with read speeds up to 3300 megabytes per second and write speeds up to 3000 megabytes per second, and capacities of 256 gigabytes, 512 gigabytes, and 1 terabyte. If you're looking to build a new PC or just upgrade your rig, then definitely consider the Hades memory and NM620 SSD by checking the link down below. And special thanks again to Lexar for sponsoring today's video.
All right, so once again, this is a $400 PC in 2021. Of course, given the current market, this isn't as good as what a $400 PC would have been just 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, but it is still a capable PC that is very, very upgradable. So how about not waste any more time and talk about each individual part and how it makes up this PC build.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the first ever Ryzen CPU to come out. This is the Ryzen 1200. It's just a Ryzen 3 1200. It's just a 4-core, 4-thread. Really nothing super insane about these. You can see it has the nice little Chinese writing on it, and that is because this is from AliExpress. You can get these from AliExpress and eBay. They're all going to come from China though, pretty much the same sellers. You're probably going to have to wait quite a while to get most of these, but $60 for a 4-core, 4-thread that performs not too far off from like a 9th Gen i3. So still pretty good in today's standard, and also you get to put it into a motherboard that can actually accept even better CPUs or APUs down the line. This is an MSI A320 and it is a Pro. What makes a Pro? I couldn't tell you. It probably has some extra USB ports or something, but we'll take a peek at it. We get 2 RAM DIMMs, so you can't go, with 4 sticks or anything, but 2 is enough for a budget build. It does only have the single 4-pin, so you're not gonna wanna go with like a Ryzen 7 or anything like that, but you really could go with like a 2600, a 3600 down the road, but you'll see our graphics card pair really makes this like a very unbottlenecked build, and if you did upgrade the CPU, you probably want to upgrade the graphics card as well down the road. So for RAM, we have this TEAMGROUP RAM, and I know it says TC Create, and you're just like, but look, TEAMGROUP. So TEAMGROUP TC Create, it's like just really cheap budget stuff. I remember when they had this classic line, I guess they just kind of changed the name, but 16 gigs at 3200 megahertz, and it is 2 sticks. So that will allow for this first gen Ryzen to run the absolute best. You really want to have 2 sticks of RAM, even if it means sacrificing the capacity. Always go dual channel because that will help the rig and gaming run a lot better. Now to cool this Ryzen 1200, we do have just a stock Wraith cooler, which Cooler Master actually makes. They come with pretty much all Ryzen CPUs. We have so many on hand that we just used when we had, but keep in mind, this often will not come with the cooler, so you will need to buy something separate, or if you have one on hand, you can do what we did. And for storage, we have this KINGSTON 480 gig SSD. It's a 2.5-inch SSD. The main reason we did this is because this board does not have an NVMe M.2 slot on it, so you do have to go with 2.5-inch on this board. You could spend just a little bit more and get a slightly nicer A320, and you could do an M.2 where you don't have to have the SATA cables coming off of it, but it's still gonna run just as fast, and this will work great.
Now for the graphics card, this is where things get a little exciting. This is an OEM RX 460. Now, I've been looking around on eBay for the best budget graphics card for a while now, and we found these RX 460s again at under $100. This one was 89 bucks, which a 460 performs better than some of the other cards that are more expensive than it right now, like 1030s and things like that. So this 460 is a really good card for 1080p low settings esports titles. I'm not gonna be doing anything super crazy with it, but it is a dedicated GPU. It's not an APU build. This thing will work wonders to get you up and running in PC gaming. And of course, the upgradability is the main focus of this system. You can go to something like a, I don't know, what would be a good pair with a Ryzen 3? Well, you know what? You probably wouldn't want to just upgrade the GPU of the Ryzen 3. You're gonna upgrade the CPU as well. So go to like a 3600 with a 1660, something like that. A lot of upgrade room with this PC build. Now for the power supply, speaking of upgrade again, this is an EVGA 510 BP. But 510 watts is more than enough for this PC build and upgrades in the future. This GPU doesn't even need external power. So we're gonna keep that PCI power connector stuffed away in the power supply basement. So for a GPU upgrade in the future, you can do that. And in terms of case here, we have a pretty standard case. This is the V-True, I believe M1, I think that's what it's called, M01. 101. It has this big old RGB fan up front, plenty of ventilation. This thing is gonna be really low power. It's not gonna produce much heat, so the single fan is perfect. It has a, well, tempered glass side panel that is magnetic. We absolutely love these features on these cases. And yeah, it's very compact and it's gonna make for a super clean budget PC. I'm excited to build this one. It's been a while since I've been this excited about budget PCs. Let's go.
Alright guys, now that we have this very exciting $400 gaming PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about a couple benchmarks real quick. Now we decided to test this PC in a handful of titles, those being Apex Legends, Overwatch, Call of Duty Vanguard, and Borderlands 3. And first up with Apex Legends, we start to see how this PC is actually pretty good for the money. On low settings at 1080p, we average 60 FPS, sometimes into the 70s. I was incredibly impressed with how smooth this gameplay experience was. I was all expecting the Ryzen 3 1200 that caused, well, a very stuttery gaming experience being only a quad core. Some newer esports titles really struggle with just older quad core CPUs, but this had no problems whatsoever, and I do think a big factor is that 16 gigs of RAM. It really does help out in newer titles. Even if you are building a budget PC, go with 16 gigs. It's not that much more expensive, and it does stable out some frame rates most of the time in these newer games. But man, that RX 460 is looking like an absolute king in terms of price performance right now. Getting 60 FPS on low settings and being able to upgrade this PC easily in the future, my gosh, I mean, this PC for $400 is an absolute great buy. And next up in Overwatch, a game that is easy to run, but is a game that a lot of people might want to play on PC. At 1080p medium settings, we got 100 plus FPS. There were some stutters at the start, but eventually it did smooth itself out. I'm not really sure if that's just Overwatch's way of loading in textures or if there was a real bottleneck with the Ryzen 3 1200. Regardless, I think the system is pretty balanced though for what you're getting, and getting 60 plus 100 plus FPS in esports titles. The same would go in a game like Fortnite. I know you're all going to comment down below, why don't you test Fortnite anymore? Really, it's a convenience thing. I don't like to download 1,000 game launchers when we do benchmarks, but Fortnite, guys, trust me, would get really good results on this PC, no problem whatsoever, and we'll try our best to benchmark it when we do a full setup with this PC very soon, so stay tuned for that. Now, a game I thought would just not work whatsoever, Call of Duty Vanguard. At 1080p, 65% resolution scale, we actually got 70 FPS. Does it look good? No, it does not look good. Running 65% res is not the prettiest in the world, but you do get 70 FPS on average, and it's decently smooth. So if you were desperate to play Call of Duty Vanguard on PC, then you definitely can with this little PC with the RX 460 and Ryzen 3 1200. Now, do keep in mind that RX 460 only has 2 gigs of VRAM, and when we tried to test the new Halo Infinite multiplayer, the game told us that we were below minimum spec for the Halo Infinite multiplayer, which is 4 gigs of VRAM, believe it or not. It would launch, but we were having issues where it would crash occasionally, so I don't really think it's going to be great for that, but again, it's a $400 PC in 2021. There are going to be some limitations. And last but certainly not least is Borderlands 3 on low settings at 1080p. We average 53 FPS, just below the 60 FPS mark, but I always do see that the built-in benchmark is more demanding than the actual game, so you can certainly play Borderlands 3 at 1080p low settings and get a good 60 FPS experience. In recap, I haven't been this excited about a budget PC in a long time. These RX 460s are giving me a glimmer of hope that budget PC gaming is still possible in 2021, and I really do think if you're going to build a budget PC right now, this is the best route to go. If you could spend a little bit more money on a newer CPU like an i3-10100 and maybe make this like a $450, $500 gaming PC, you'll have a much better upgrade path in the future. But given its current price performance right now, if you really just have $400 to spend, you don't really care about the future, and you rather just play the games that I showed on screen right now, then you'll have no problems enjoying those games at 1080p decent settings. So now we finished the benchmarking section of today's video. How about I bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, so we just got done benchmarking this PC, and as you can see, even AAA titles can actually be played on this guy right here.
And it's very upgradable. You could go to like a Ryzen 5 3600 and then slap in a better GPU in the future, but right out of the gate for $400 is a crazy good deal. Very excited to see that this is possible in 2021 going into 2022. So if you want to pick any of the stuff up for today's video, link in the description down below will be affiliate links and will help us out. Keep in mind the graphics card is an eBay purchase, so you will have to do a little bit of digging, but there are a decent amount of sellers that sell this thing at the price that we did for this budget build.
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!
And hey, if you want to actually buy this PC here because, you just don't quite feel like building it yourself and you want to get a banger deal on it anyways, you should check out our website.
PCBros.tech. This PC in particular might not be there, but we do have an inventory of RX 460s, so you could reach out for a build consultation and we may put one together for you. So PCBros.tech. See you guys later. Goodbye.